Hi there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Market here with an update video for March for all of the sales that are going on at the distribution level for Magic the Gathering sealed products. So this is going to be geared more towards my patrons that have access to buying at these prices, but I think you can find it helpful if you're just in the market for Magic the Gathering to see what the trends are and whatnot. So if you have been noticing that market, the singles prices have been going through the roof, especially standard, but it's not just standard. We're seeing commander prices, a lot of the staples going back up, and we're even seeing things like Pauper and Modern cards go up, which is definitely a breath of fresh air. We've definitely turned a page. WotC has really tightened up the belt with product runs. We've seen Fallout have a lot less of initial print run. Now, I want to warn everyone about Fallout specifically because if you look at all the other universes beyond, which we'll actually get into on this video, they seem to continue to print and supply the universes beyond lines. However, we are starting to see other products that didn't do too well in the past couple of years start to go crazy again, especially the standard price or the standard box prices of things like Crimson Vow and whatnot that people just rejected in 2022 and 2023. So that's some good news for a lot of that dead product. We are seeing other products like Commander Masters and Murders at Karlov Manor still struggle, but with the addition of all the demand, the standard season, the Pro Tour was just finished for standard, and we still have the RCQ season for standard. It has added a lot of pressure on the market, and the demand for singles has gone up, and I think it's just a matter of time before the sealed box prices of especially standard sets will start to match, and people will start going that route to crack boxes for singles rather than going after the single market. So I need to do an entire video about this because I think there are a number of factors that are factoring in. It's not just a hot standard season or demand maybe shooting up. I actually don't think that Magic has really had any more demand than, say, 2022 and 2023. I think the main thing that has changed is twofold. Wizards of the Coast, as I mentioned, is tightened print runs, which is less supply now entering into the market, and there is still the attitude of newer product is just going to go on sale, so don't buy it, and then people then will buy older products instead. Like, the money's still there, so it's still going towards purchases. It's just not going towards the new shiny things, with the exception of now Fallout being a set that's selling incredibly well. But again, that might have to reflect more on that the supply is much more limited as compared to sets that were released in 2022 and 2023. And then on the other end of the spectrum, so with Wizards of the Coast, changing business models here, we're also seeing that I think that a lot of businesses started during the COVID era of, okay, I can do this at home. I can sell cards on TCG Player on eBay. I can make profit. This is better than working my 9 to 5. And they realized exactly what a brutal market it actually is to try to sell on platforms like eBay and TCG Player, especially if you don't have a name behind your sales. So you could do just insane sales 1 month or 2 months in a row. I mean, just killing it with your sales. But without recognition and without brand recognition, it's always going to be the lowest prices on TCG Player that people go towards. And so there isn't any sort of loyalty towards those. So you're always in this rat race. So you could do hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales, and then you're back to square one the next time around with having to crack so much product and get it out there and be, first to market, lowest product there. And then the fees start to add up, and all of these, you start to do your numbers and like, oh man, the shipping, even like all the stamps and envelopes and all those things. And I think a lot of people have realized, wow, it's a lot of work to try to compete on the eBay and TCG Player model if they don't have other revenue streams or other ways to draw eyes. In the past, TCG Player and eBay have been an outlet for stores to really sell a lot of their overstock. You'd still prefer to sell in store. You don't have to take a 15% fee when you sell a card, or even upwards like 30% or 40% oftentimes on places like eBay and TCG Player once they take those big cuts. And I think people have learned the hard way that this is just not a business that is, it's not something that is enjoyable. You think it's enjoyable, then you realize just what a grind it really is. And B, it's actually not that profitable in the scope, especially when it's oversaturated with other people trying to do the same. So 2022 and 2023 was just riddled with that sort of mentality of like, I'm going to make this work. And I think that now, 2 years later, a year or two later, people are finally getting the harsh realization that this is just not a business they want to be in. So in turn, that has left a lot less competition on the singles market. And going back to the whole point that sealed product was not worth it to open to try to crack singles, and now we have that perfect storm with demand going up as far as standard is concerned and other things, less supply out there, less people cracking boxes, less people competing in the sealed market and actually doing that, labor to get the singles into the market, and now you see it go up. So with that sort of preface here of what I'm talking about, I think that sealed box prices, especially the ones of 2022 through 2023, are going to follow the trends of current standard-based cards and other cards that have been going up. So in this video, I'm going to talk about all the ones that are on sale, but I'm going to start with the ones that I really, really like. Now, this is confirmed restock from Wizards of the Coast. How this is, I believe that Wizards of the Coast does have some warehousing, and they do have some supply that they hold back. And I'm thinking they're going to go more of this direction in the future. I think they've realized that if they can actually sell, like if I were Wizards, this would be my business model. I wouldn't go the Amazon dump routes. I wouldn't even go the distribution dump routes. What I would do is I would just gauge the market and trickle my supply in and let the market have breathing room. Like Magic the Gathering is now showing that it still has that 30-year track record of people wanting the product and products going back up. So if a set like Commander's Legends Baldur's Gate can now be going for $100 draft booster boxes on the market here on TCG Player on eBay, then it shows that you just have to be patient. And if other people are playing that waiting game, why doesn't the manufacturer just play that waiting game? Why don't they go into the warehousing business with stuff? They print if they want to have surplus of this stuff. Again, I still think they should cut back initial supply because they can always print if they need to, but go away from that and of the dumps and whatnot, and just store it for a while. Let the market have some breathing room. Then you can make those educated decisions based upon market trends, whether to release more stuff into the ecosystem. And then when it does pick back up, you can actually sell this at a premium it's out of print. You have no, at that point, you don't have to have these these price points that you've made with distributors and with stores. And then you slowly trickle it in and you can actually make a better bang for your buck. And I don't think that if other people can make warehousing work, I don't know why Wizards of the Coast can't make it work. However, anyway, we're really sidetracked on this video with my train of thought here. But anyway, Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate has now shown that it is still an in-demand product. This was a set that everybody hated. This was actually a set that almost broke us. I lost tens of thousands of dollars on this stupid set. So this was kind of the turning point for how I used to have a business model on when I first started the Patreon. So a little bit of a story time for me as a store owner here is we started this store more as a hobby. So we just wanted a place to play here in Richfield, Utah. I had this YouTube background where I had a lot of people, a lot of eyes from the Rogue Deck Builder days, and a lot of connections that I made over the years through various vendors and whatnot. And so we could kind of meld the two together, and I could say, okay, I could create content, we can have the store, and then we can kind of rely on those two streams of income and be able to keep the store going. And we slowly built it. So then when I added the Patreon, I'm like, okay, I have this, store. I can offer cheap prices to people that are willing to pay up front because it's no risk to me. It made sense because the biggest thing, if you'll learn if you ever do start a business, is there's nothing worse than taking on capital risk for a product that you don't know is going to sell because, the credit card payments need to be paid before those interest rates start happening. The loans need to be paid back. A lot of people don't have that massive capital to move on products. And you also need to start building up your numbers with distributors if you ever want to get any good product. So for years, though, I took the slow route. So I only ordered to the amount that I knew that I had pre-sold. That even though I like most sets, I could gauge that, okay, I think that locals and patrons are going to want 20-30% more of this product. And oftentimes at that time period during like the 2019s, 2022s, that was your only slot to actually buy this product. That if you passed on the pre-orders, if you didn't order a lot of pre-orders, a lot of times there wasn't an opportunity to restock on even things like, I'm trying to think what the set was before Commander Legends, because that was kind of the feel of the market at that point. So for years I was being very conservative, and I kept getting I got to a point where we did have free capital. And I got to the point that it's like, okay, I know that I'm going to have, like I said, 30% more orders over the next few months. So I'm okay over ordering by 30, 40, 50% because I know they're going to get sold. And what was so good about Magic the Gathering is I knew that I could just, if I needed to recoup capital, I could just throw it on TCU Player and break even. And it's good. Everything's great. I'm able to serve customers and not have to worry about the risk of it. But with Baldur's Gate, this was the one where the market absolutely changed to where prices for the first time in years went under distributor price. So this product was so rejected that stores like me, we overordered because it's like, okay, hey, I want to make sure that I have enough. And then the market collapsed and I lost a ton of money because then we did have to recoup that capital because then I needed it to buy the next, shiny things like what was, at that point was like Double Masters 2022 or like I can't remember the time frame of when these sets came out, but there was always something shinier that then I had to order. And it was sets like these that just absolutely broke so many stores, myself included. We did not make good money at all during this time period because of how rough it was of a market. And not just that, they just weren't even worth it to open for singles. This was a set that was just abysmal at the price point to try to make any sort of profit. So it's crazy that this is recovered as well as it has, because even sets like these have they've went past my own expectations. Like I thought it would take years. Like I still had faith in Magic the Gathering products that they're going to rebound, that it's just going to take some time. So I haven't been like panicking too much. Like it's terrible to have a lot of inventory that's just sitting, and you could, you have to cut back on other things that could make you money at this point, but you don't want to sell at loss on these particular products. But it was still like, okay, I can wait a few years for this to go up. And now I'm kind of kicking myself because I started moving this when a lot of these type of products, when they actually did start to get to that break-even point, and now it looks like they're back to being profitable. But anyway, back to, now that we're out of story time, now that we're like 12 minutes in this video, let's talk about the pricing here. So right now, I believe, let me pull up my cheat sheet for what these are going for. So right now, the Baldur's Gate can be had from the distributor for $75. They're going, as you can see, for about $95, $96, and it's actually pretty decent sales. There's a couple per day that are being sold for this booster box, and obviously they're being sold elsewhere, and the prices are rising for Commander Baldur's Gate. There are a lot of cards that are still very, very popular in this set, like the Ancient Copper Dragon. And then you start getting down to the mana base has been going up. You can see like 2% weeklies for the past while for the commander lands here. They're always going to be in demand. The only thing that's going to drive these prices down is when they get reprinted. And we don't know when that's going to happen with kind of the lackluster sales for Commander Masters, and even like Baldur's Gate was lackluster, that maybe they're not even looking at these particular, cards or this particular way to get these cards back into the ecosystem like they did in the past few years. I mean, we had the first, when were these lands first printed? It was like Battle Bond, very good reception for that. And then we also had Commander Legends. But after that, though, the next few sets that were Commander specific were not something that were received well by the market. So I can actually see Wizard of the Coast leading off from this and focusing more on Universes Beyond. So whether or not these actually get printed in Universes Beyond decks is still up in the air. I don't think they do, because Wizard of the Coast does have a formula when creating Commander decks. They put out a budget based upon secondary value. When Wizard of the Coast says they don't watch the secondary market, they're the biggest liars ever. So the reason why these don't oftentimes are included, I can't even remember, have these ever been included in a Commander Precon before? The reason is they don't want it to allocate so much of this money that they have for the budget. Say a Commander deck is worth $100 in the secondary market, or $50, or 50. They want it to sell for $50. They're going to put $100 worth of secondary market value in it. They're not going to choose something like a dual land that's worth $15 to throw in it. So anyway, that's kind of another reason why I do like this set, because I do think there will be some breathing room for a lot of these cards before they get reprint. That is always the game with buying Magic the Gathering product, is to try to gauge if Wizard of the Coast, and I'm not even saying this on a speculative level or an investing level, I'm saying this just on a player level, that everyone makes these decisions whether or not they want to buy these. Like, I don't want to buy this now if it's going to be reprinted within a year. And I think that we're gonna get back to a better pattern of things with Wizard of the Coast, because they can't keep taking these massive hits with things like Commander Masters. And even looking back at a bunch of other master sets that should be appreciating in value at this point that are not, I know Wizards of the Coast is looking at that. I know there have been some changes because they do kind of see the writing on the wall that they can't keep, killing the chicken or eating the chicken that lays golden eggs. And they're going to go back to respecting at least a bit of time. At least that's my hope before they really just reprint things in the ground like they did in 2022. And 2024. If that's the case, then of course Battle Gates I think is just a knock out of the park because there are plenty of cards that just justify the value at this price. The collector's boosters were something that were fire sold for a year for way under value. Those have gone back up. Those are now in hard supply to actually find them at a decent price. They're back up to way higher. And of course, that price memory is going to be there that people remember paying $100 for collector boosters. They're not going to pay $170 for them. And I think draft boosters are just the way to go with this particular one because it's another topic I need to make on another video that is kind of the return of the utility. Like I'm not going to get it out for Market Monday today. Got busy doing other stuff, but maybe there'll be a Market Tuesday on my main channel where I'm going to really beat it home that we're back to utility in Magic the Gathering, which is just such a breath of fresh air because I couldn't stand the era of collectible. Like since Throne of Eldraine, that has just absolutely ruined the market with people. Like it works only for a few sets with these chase cards where they're like, oh, here's this shiny version of a borderless or an alternate art borderless. Like they can get away now with the One Ring or some anime things. Every now and again in few sets, there have been some chase cards out of like Lost Cash of Ixalan that have those specialty printings. They can get away with those sometimes, but their whole cookie cutter collector's boosters just having borderless, which or oftentimes just the extended, which is just blown up art that actually looks uglier than the original with ones with frames. The markets have rejected those, and I think that not just that most of the money that was kind of going in that direction for collector boosters were not players, were either people being speculative on these going through the roof later down the road, because in yesteryears of Magic the Gathering, those were like the cards that did gain the most value were those specialty cards, or it was just it was the FOMO collectors where it's like, okay, well, maybe this version will never happen again, so you better get in on this. And then over time, when you keep crying wolf with the collectors, it's like, oh, you better get in on this special thing, and we're never going to do something more special. Then they're not going to believe you, and then they're just going to get wall fatigue and kind of burned out, and like, I already have versions of these, I don't care. And that's kind of what we're seeing with that. So I'm really liking this return to utility, and where utility is going to come in effect most for at least price changes for sealed product is going to be in things like draft booster, because those are the most bang for your buck to actually get the specific cards, just the regular versions of those cards. All right, so that's a long-winded stuff. Let's go on to the next one that I actually do like, which is Domino Remaster. This was another set that was absolutely rejected, and the reason why I like about Domino Remaster, I've talked about this in other videos, is just the price point makes sense to me. It's been trending up, and it actually does have a lot, both of the collectors and the drafts. So the collector boosters are going for $160. They're going on TCG Player for $190, as you can see here. About $190 after shipping. Like this one's $185, but then it does jump back up. And the draft boosters are going for the looks like what they're going for $100 now. Wow. Yep, they've popped back up to the lowest one being had for $100. You can still get them right now for $80 at the distribution level. So you're saving a good $30, $25 from the distribution if you go this route rather than TCG Player. And the cards in them are very similar. You can see this price increase from the last few months here. It's gone up, actually since December. So December, it's gone up a good $40. And from the kind of the low, the real low, the bottom, it looks like it's gone all the way from 300 at the low. This is if you were to own every card. This is just a good metric to use to see if a set has the value contained within it. You can see it's gone up about $87, which is actually very significant. And this set too, I think, is a sleeper because people forget, what evergreen these type of cards are in Commander. All the tutors are amazing. The Worldly Tutor and Light Tutors, the Vampiric Tutor, they're great. You have things like the Urza's Incubator, the Sylvan Library. I mean, it's been printed so many times. That's why it's so inexpensive. But again, I can't see them. Tarmogoyf reprint in file is weird, because you'd think that they would give they wouldn't print Tarmogoyf again because of how hard it's collapsed. And Sylvan Library is kind of getting that treatment. It's getting printed like crazy. But there are also a lot of really, really iconic cards that do see play in other formats, like Yawgmoth. Urza occasionally sees play in other formats as well. But Yawgmoth's a tier deck in Modern. And even things like Entomb. There's a lot of demand in these cards that are really, really low at this point. And again, I still expect these singles to be eaten up before the sealed product really goes crazy. But eventually these are going to be, what's going to happen is it's going to make sense to go the sealed route rather than trying to go the singles. Again, it's always going to be that ebb and flow type mentality in this market. When the singles prices become so lucrative, people are going to go towards the singles. They're not going to go for the sealed because they realize, okay, it's not worth it, and box openers aren't going to crack it. And then eventually it's going to peak back up, and then it's going to make the sealed worth it. And that's just kind of the nature of the game for Magic the Gathering. So I think what we're seeing with this one, we are seeing that page being turned for Domino Remastered at this price point, now being worth it to really try to chase after those tutors and Force of Wills and whatnot that are seeing price increases week after week. All right, so another one I do like too is not necessarily Crimson Vow draft boosters, but the set boosters are very interesting because we have seen a very big increase. The only thing that is a little bit worrisome though is the lack of actual sales of these particular products. Now it is an old set, but there are a lot of cards from Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt that are sought after now for Standard. I was actually looking at it. This set is sneakily more important in Standard right now than a lot of the sets that are more recent. There are a lot of cards that really define the Standard format, especially like the mana base in this one is still the best one in the mix, and a lot of them from Crimson Vow especially, they didn't get the reprints. There were a few that did. They got hit with, like the Stormcarved Cave got hit with the Doctor Who, but a couple of them did miss any sort of reprints in Commander decks, one being Shattered Sanctum and one being the Deathcap Glade. So that's some good news for Crimson Vow, is once you get rares that are over $10 and multiple rares that are over $10, it typically does justify the price of these. We've even seen cards like Seminary Prowler that have gone from like $2 now to $10, and that one kind of confuses me because I don't know exactly where the sucker's seeing play. It's like a standard sideboard in a couple decks, like combo decks that use it, but I think it's just mainly Commander demand that has finally outstretched the supply. And if that's kind of the sign for there, then I'm sure that like Toxrill the Corrosive, which was a very, very popular card in when the set was released for Commander players, I think this one can also get some breathe some new life with Commander players now and wanting to pick it up because it works so well in plenty of different decks that use -1, or it doesn't use -1 counters. It just gets counters that give them -1. Anyway, there's a lot of decks that probably do want this, and I could even see this actually hitting play in like Standard Reanimator now as a way to clear boards. But anyway, again, we are getting sidetracked with what we were trying to talk about. But Crimson Vow can be had at the prices of $75 and $90 respectively, which again, you're saving a good $20 on the set boosters. It's pretty much break even right now on the draft boosters, but that is something also that can change if more demand for this sort of cards that are contained in this continues to go up from the Standard season. And again, Standard is what I've heard from people. Actually, I've played a bit of Standard myself. It's in an interesting spot right now. I'll have to do a review on what I feel about it, but the Pro Tour was the best in a while. I mean, they haven't even really done any sort of focus on it, and so this is a good change. So it looks like they're going back to really trying to showcase Pro Tours and RCQ seasons and Standard play it in stores, and I think that hopefully can breathe some new life into Magic the Gathering, where they need to realize that they can't just Commanderfication Magic, that they need both of them. I think that was one of the other problems with the 2021 through 2024 or 2023 period, was the hubris of Wizards of the Coast thinking they could just focus on the casual, that they didn't have to focus on the kind of the competitive scene, the pro scene anymore, that it was just Commander, because that's where the sales were leading them. They're like, oh wow, all these, Lord of the Rings, University Beyond, all this kind of stuff, it's all these, Commander is driving everything, let's just focus on Commander. And now they're starting to realize, wow, we have this market that we've been neglecting that actually can make quite a big, a lot of money for us to focus on, and hopefully they'll get back to that. So that's been another interesting kind of attitude shift that I've seen in early 2024 that is, again, refreshing, because I'd like to see it get back to sort of that ecosystem where there's both the casual Commander player as well as the 1v1 kind of grinder, those type of people that used to show up at stores as well. But I mean, something I've noticed even at my store is that was such a dying breed for the past few years, like no interest whatsoever. It was just pods of Commander. That's what everyone wanted to play. I've talked about how our pre-releases have been so dismal, mainly for the fact that Wizards of the Coast releases the pre-release product at the same time. So the Commander decks and the collectors, they're like, hey, we'll let stores sell it on their pre-release. And so people can pick up their pre-orders for that. And what was happening for like our stores, people would just come in and they'd like, hey, I want my bundle, I want my collector's edition, and I don't want to play in the pre-release. And then they just go home and build commander decks. So hopefully Wizards of the Coast can start incentivizing people to actually play the 1v1 formats, the limited and whatnot, and we can get back to a good healthy ecosystem of having both. Again, it was kind of awkward for years where they didn't focus at all on commander, and there was that untapped market, but I think the pendulum swung more the other way. So yeah, Innostrad's kind of interesting, and now that since this video is way long, I'm just going to kind of go over the other ones that are on sale but not the best prices. The Midnight Hunt can be had right now for $80, so you can save like $10 off of the TCG. Martian Machines is pretty much break even here. Like the market price says 90. It's about that, and you can get it for 80, so another $10, nothing too special. The Brothers War is going for $90, and again, it's $80 is what it costs from distribution. And same through Wilds of Eldraine. This one is quite interesting because I do think the Enchanted Tales are going to be things that are going to be valuable long term. And this one's a little bit better because you can still get it for $80, and it's going for $100 on TCG players. So you can save $20 per box. That route. And last but not least, I do want to mention this, though, which is going back to what I've been talking about, the trends of like Universes Beyond and kind of the casual collector. We are starting to see a downtrend in that market. So this was a hot product for a long time, Lord of the Rings. I do still think that Wizards of the Coast has been slowly keeping this trickling in the market, and that's what we finally starting to see, like a collapse in the faith in this one. And people are still buying it though. Like, I mean, look at the sales. This is pretty good for Lord of the Rings full sets too. This is like people buying the full sets, not specifically buying the commander deck that they want. Like, we could actually even break it down for the specific commanders and look at those. But a full set will cost you $180, which is actually down from a couple. Like I said, it's been down $5 from a few weeks ago. And it can still be had at distribution level for $160. The same can be said, like that's the price for Universes Beyond commander decks is $160. Same thing with Warhammer. Warhammer's even has some pretty decent sales. It's still strong as well. There are a lot of cards that are still high demand for commander players in this. And then we also do have the Doctor Who display boosters that can be had for $150. So this can actually save you about $25. So that's what you're looking to save, is about $25 on these commander decks if you do go the patron route. So anyway, hope you like my long rambly video. This is what happens when I don't do videos for a while. It's hard for me to stay focused, and I have so much to talk about because I haven't talked about this, this sort of stuff that has been on my mind, and then I just, belch it out in one video. So hopefully I can get back to some consistent videos. I say that all the time. I know. And focus more on these topics because I do have eyes on the ground here with, being here at a store that has actual demand of people playing, as well as working with patrons of what they're ordering, and also seeing the market in general just by watching prices daily. And so there are a lot of interesting things. So it's definitely a good change from the doom and gloom of everything was going to zero for the past couple of years, and now we're seeing a healthy market. So maybe we'll talk about some other IPs too, like Lorcana and Pokemon in the future. I don't know if I want to blend it in this channel or not, but it seems like the most appropriate place to put it. Pokemon still is a disaster. Like, if it's not Evolving Skies, it's still going down. And I have no faith in Pokemon right now. They made all the wrong decisions, in my opinion, with how they've managed Pokemon in the last few years. But again, that's another market that does seem to go through these big like failures, and then it's like a phoenix that rises from his ashes, and all of a sudden Pokemon is the best asset to ever own. So anyway, we'll take a look at those in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with the Rogue Market. Thanks for watching.